Welcome everybody, this is Beyond the Walls. You're here with me, your man, young brother, better free Harry. I'm here with my man D.
Yep.
One. Grrr. Rico. Wendy.
What's up? Last but not least.
This is Beyond the Walls PVD, Corona edition. Coronavirus. Get real.
Get real.
We're live and direct from our respective homes, and we've come to bring you a broadcast just to shed a little light, a little entertainment, some laughs, just to get your mind off all the nonsense going on the outside. So we're happy to be here with y'all. We're glad you tuned in, and let's get into this talk about this COVID-19, man. It's real out here. It's real.
Oh wow, you got the mask.
Oh Lord, Jesus have mercy.
I don't play.
We in here. Hello. It's the new flex. No more money bands to the ear. It's Lysol wipes to the ear, boy.
For real.
Step your
Y'all
game
definitely
up,
not
boy.
doing it right. Yeah, where's that real masquiti at, bro? Y'all are slacking right now.
What's up?
Pablo had to show his bottled water.
Come on, man. You gotta stay hydrated during these times, baby. Hey, come on, baby.
Okay.
What's happening?
Does lotion count?
No, Wendy.
COVID-19 ain't got nothing on me.
Wendy, I beg of you to get it together real quick. So I just we wanted to do a Just the Facts segment. The downside to being in a moment of crisis, being in a period of crisis, and having complete incompetence at the top of the government is people don't treat the silence, or people don't take the non-messaging as silence. What they do is they fill the void. And what's ended up happening is, and this is what I love about the world, the people with like the best internet skills have the worst information.
Yep.
So it's like, it'd be like, yo, everything that you just put up there is unverifiable. And I know it makes you sound woke or like you're aware of things, but it's not factual information. And the only people who can do something about what you just posted have a lot of guns on them. The rest of us just kind of got to sit here. And it's one of these things where it's like, I wish people who were good with technical stuff use their powers for good, but it is what it is. So real quick, just the facts kind of segment. One is there are experimental vaccines out there.
No, thank you.
That are making progress. So an experimental vaccine developed by Modema Incorporated, it's a pharmaceutical company, has began their first stages of clinical trials. And they're testing on 45 healthy adults in Seattle. If you guys are not aware, Washington, the Seattle region is being hit the hardest. It's interesting because so there's this theory where they're like, yo, I wonder why Seattle, Washington. And one is there is a gigantic, super wealthy Chinese population that lives there, but also they were the first people to be testing. So it's one of these things where like there might be another pocket with a lot more infected people. They just have no idea.
Wow.
Just a variety of different things. More than 50 scientists in Israel are now working on an antibody. They've reported a significant breakthroughs in understanding the biological mechanism. So, researchers at I'm going to butcher this name, Marist Medical Center claim to have found an antibody that can fend off the infection itself, which obviously would be super helpful because for the people who are not sick now, being able to never be sick would be incredible. Cleveland's Metro Health Medical Center has developed a COVID-19 test that can now deliver results in just 2 hours rather than days. For obvious reasons, that would be super helpful. And just a lot of other things. Apple has reopened all 42 of its stores in China. Why does that matter? Because Apple is a gigantic retailer and they make a ton of money, and shutting down their stores costs them money. if they're willing to open up their stores in the worst hit area, right? You know what I mean? So, and this is all factual information. This is all stuff you can look up and be like, oh, that is a real place. Oh, that is a real thing, as opposed to, you know, hey, I'm in this place. Look at this military vehicle. It's being parked here. That means they're going to do this. And you go, or that picture's from July 4th, 2 years ago, and that vehicle is just getting parade. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I feel free to chime in. I just wanted to share some factual, positive developments.
Yeah, an African prophet told me that this was coming 2 years ago, so I knew about this the whole time.
Harry.
Well, I just want to say one of the reasons that Apple is reopening its stores in China is because China has, well, they're reporting no new cases or like a significantly low number of cases.
Right, absolutely.
Meaning that they've successfully contained the virus. And I know there was, you know, extra controversy about that because China's a communist country. They're not the most truthful in their reporting.
Yeah, which is true. You're absolutely right. But I will say this. China's a capitalist country. Apple, however, is an American-based corporation that is risk adverse, meaning, one, they're about their money. However, if they're not going to go, oh, well, the government says everybody's fine, let's open up our stores. They're going to make sure that nobody gets sick inside of their stores. Why? Because if I go to an Apple store and I'm getting an iPhone and, you know, I wasn't sick before I got there, when I left, I got sick. Guess who I'm suing?
Apple.
It's not going to be the person next to me who was waiting in line who coughed. I'm suing Apple for having put me at risk. So, you know, that's kind of an important.
Yeah, there's heavy liability there.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the perfect word.
I hope anyway.
Yeah.
China.
China.
Because it's from China.
From China.
Man,
this is.
By the way,
if you don't listen, if you do not laugh, it'll make you so angry if you don't laugh, man.
Bro,
they
the
going to have
that we're laughing.
Presidential highlight reel. This world,
dog, it is gonna be incredible. I can't wait to see the end credits of this.
When his run is over.
But the fact that we're laughing about the leader,
right,
and
of the free world,
that's crazy.
It is crazy.
It is,
and he's taking no responsibility. Anything negative that comes about it, he's taking no responsibility for.
He's
it.
not even taking
Everything that
responsibility.
has gone wrong, he's blamed on the last administration that came in. He's not taking ownership of everything.
Man in February said this was a hoax by the Democrats and this is media. Like, there are clips. Like, it is him actually saying that this thing is not real. And then late last week talking about, I always knew this was a heavy concern. Bruh, we got you on video saying that this was not true.
We got receipts. And the thing is, like, a reporter I'm pretty sure y'all saw a reporter toss him a freaking bone, asking him a question. He's like, Mr. President, you know, we have this many people who've been infected. We have this many things, deaths in this. What do you want to say to the American people who are scared right now?
Yeah.
He could have. This was his moment to
said, this is bad
say
reporting.
something encouraging.
You're
say
bad
something,
reporter.
and it was like watching the Twin Towers go down again. It was just like, oh my gosh.
You know what? And this is also a life lesson. There's something about people who don't learn from their past experiences of how to do things differently. And he has not learned, like, either STFU, you know, say, I'm like, go with the, you know, valid lines that you just always
Can you elaborate on STFU, please?
I don't know what that is.
That's a university in south of France.
What?
STFU. Can you please elaborate?
I'm a Christian. I don't know what that means.
Shut the freak up.
Shut the fuck up.
I see how y'all trying to catch me out here.
Yeah.
But it's sad. It's funny. It's hilarious. but like in the grand scheme of things, it's sad because he's such a poor representation. I've said this before. Like if I need someone to represent me, to speak for me, it's not this guy.
No, not at all.
Yeah, what you can say, people on the other side may have compliments. Well, he's a good this, he's a good that, and that may be true. Like he may be a guy who's a no nonsense, but I need a guy like that behind the scenes.
Name me one thing he's
like
good at.
In front speaking from me. Let him stay in his lane and do what he's good at.
Name me one positive thing that he's good at.
He expresses
making money. He's making money.
He's a very he doesn't let things bring him down. when negative things happen,
funny, bro.
It has nothing to do with him. He's missing the positivity. If this is going to be huge, this is going to be the greatest.
No matter what
this world has ever seen. It's going to be great.
Yeah, man, that is. But you guys are making a great point. Like the difficulty in a time like this is, it's one of these things where I tell people often, like, I don't necessarily mind bad news, but I can't take uncertainty. And that's what's really difficult, man. It's like, it's one of these things where, like, anytime he does a briefing, anything that's coming out of their office, it feels like we're both getting the same news alert. I don't feel like they know more than I know, and that's not a good feeling. It can't be that you and me are watching CNN at the same time going, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And then now you're tweeting about it. I'm on Instagram about it. And we both finding out. Like, you're supposed to know these things before other people. And that to me is probably the most frustrating aspect of this.
Most definitely.
Yo, real quick, before we move forward, I definitely want to shout out every single conspiracy theorist in the world. I tried to do it for about 17 minutes, and I was like, "Yo, this is too much for me, man. I can't keep up with all of this, man. All the celebrities, I can't keep up, man.
There's so many implications. You got to quiet all that nonsense, man. It's ridiculous, y'all. It's ridiculous because all
the most recent I heard was all the celebrities are being paid. They're being paid to say they got it, and how does that even make sense? How does that make sense?
Again, I have no idea. And the most difficult part about this is the when you ask why. So what sense does that make? And they go, oh, money, and it's like, dog, listen to me carefully, man. There's certain levels that you reach in life where you don't necessarily have to. It's you and me who are like, ooh, 10,000. I'll lie about that. Like, like, come on, man. Like this thing,
something's not adding up.
Yeah, it's one of these things where you think to yourself, oh, you're saying that Idris Elba wants a movie, and the producer offered him the movie if he lies, and like, yo, what are you talking about?
Yeah, there's got to be a bigger implication behind why someone would do that.
But you know what's funny, guys?
Being controlled or something like that. I don't know.
But you know what's funny though? The most stupidest things, guys, sometimes really happen are the truth. So we could sit here and say, like, oh, it's never gonna happen, or that would be stupid to happen, and then they're sitting there in the background laughing at us. Like, you don't know. Right. You never know.
Now, here's the advantage Wenley has. If nothing happens, he's right. If something happens, he's right. It's one of these things where, like, yeah, you're making a great point. If we find out in 2 years that it's been exposed, Idris Elba was offered the new Mission Impossible and he lied about this and third, is like, oh, wow, that's wild. I can't believe that happened. But you know what happens when nothing gets said?
Yeah.
Everybody who posted that stuff still walks away feeling right. And it's like, all right. Yeah. Didn't you predict that like 6 different things was gonna happen? It's like, well, I said maybe, and it's like, all right, thank you.
But, you know, at the end of the day, the facts are regular Joe Schmo people are still dying and in the hospital and suffering from this. I think maybe this is a good time also to talk about preventative measures. Clearly, we're all on here. Maybe we should call this the quarantine edition because we're here via phone conference because, you know, we're taking the precautions that we need to by not, you know, being
being
together
around
in a
you,
confined
Setting a
space.
good example.
being around Wendy, we're taking precautions.
You know what, one? You got one more time. You got one more time.
Yo.
Hey,
And you
but it's,
know, I think not I think I was reading somewhere. I forgot what city it was, but that was kind of like defying the curfew. It was like, now we're gonna chill if we're gonna chill. Like whether you believe it's true or not, I would rather be safe than sorry. I would rather take the proper precautions and do what I need to do, you know, not be in places, you know, 10 or more, washing my hands every single time, you know, thoroughly wiping everything down, you know, doing the things that we know cuts down what's the thing? Lower, flattening the curve. Things that are
flattening
going to
curve.
help flatten the curve.
Yeah.
So we can resume life as
Yeah.
scheduled, if it's even going to return to life as scheduled.
Normal,
I
yeah.
pray that it does.
Yeah. It's you know, people are taking the precautions that they need to. You know, speaking in the New England region, you know, Charlie Baker has set a shut in. You know, only essential stores are going to be open. Gina Raimondo in Rhode Island here hasn't put a shut in mandate. People think she will later on, but you know, essential stores are still open. People are still out and about. I was out Saturday because we had to do laundry, so we were out and about Saturday, and it looked like business as usual. For like, we were in the Cranston area, and it looked pretty normal, you know. But they might be more restrictive in the coming days. We'll see. But I think the precaution people take, if you're going to hit the grocery store, which is where a lot of people congregate, you know, if you want to, because I have a wife who's 6 months in pregnant, you know, I wore the mask, I wore the gloves, because in my mind, this is nothing to me. But at the same time, indeed, I'm not going to risk my toddler. I'm not going to risk my wife and my unborn kid. It's just something I have to do. You know what I'm saying? And so I do those things. I when I bring the groceries home, I wash my hands, you know, wipe down things. And, you know, you just take necessary precaution. You know, the number one, you know, wash your hands and, you know, you
just
you
don't
fango.
be nasty, man. Come on, man. There's too many nasty. Yo, it's crazy that it took all of this to make people wash their hands and use bleach.
Wipe their
What are
ass.
you doing? Who taught you growing up? Like, come on.
Oh, man. I mean,
This is true.
as some of you know, some of you don't know, I work at the hospital. When I come home, I strip down, jump in the shower, make sure before I talk to my kids, talk to my husband, whether that helps, whether it doesn't, those are some of the extra precautions that I'm taking, so I'm not spreading, you know, germs to, you know, my kids and my husband.
Right. This is true. And so, you know, this is a great way to transition, but like all these things, everything that we're seeing, we got internet prophets, we got internet televangelists, we got internet, you know, scientists.
Oh,
you
they're
know,
rising right
this
now.
and that.
They're
And
on the rise.
Yeah, all this contributes to the heaviness of anxiety, the heaviness of mental anguish in people who are not used to their normal routine being like just turned out of whack, to have a wrench thrown in it. It's not good, because that people need that consistency. And so, you know, in this time, we're not going to see it, but people are going to be feeling a lot of anxiety because they don't know what's next. They don't know what's ahead of them. And you know, so we can speak to that. I know, Wendy, you spoke on the fact that you were feeling some anguish, some anxiety over some of these things because too many people are talking.
Listen, I consider myself not a highly anxious person. I'm typically a go with the flow type of person.
Yeah.
When I tell you I was freaking out the other night, I think it was just everything added on to me, on top of the fact that someone sent me a conspiracy theory video. It was like a 45-minute video. I got 7 minutes in. I couldn't watch no more. Later on in the evening, I'm sitting there with my husband. I'm like, honey, I can't breathe. Like my chest was tight. I couldn't breathe. I'm like, what if the government comes and starts imposing all of these extra restrictions? Like my mind just kept going and going and going. And I had to acknowledge that this was affecting me more than I thought it was. You know, I work at the hospital. I'm there every day. You know, we have patients potentially who get screened, and I still have to treat them and interview them and evaluate them. And so, you know, we joke about it in the hospital to keep a light mood, and so no one's getting increasingly anxious. But as of like last week, the doctors started getting a little more serious, and so I think that just set the tone for me more. I was like, yo, if the doctors are starting to worry, maybe I need to start worrying. And you know, I'm a licensed therapist, so some of my clients were starting to talk about their anxieties about this, and I think just everything just started to weigh down on me. And I've never experienced anxiety like that before, so it was a new feeling. And so it definitely it was an eye opener.
Yeah.
And you know, when I was searching online, and not searching online, but just scrolling on like my Facebook feed, on my Instagram feed, and there are a lot of faith-based people. It was just, I'm gonna be honest, it was very disheartening to me. That we're just like, if your pastor is closing down church, I would think twice about following your pastor if they're scared of the virus and they don't believe in the blood. And if you're fearful in these times, then you don't truly believe in God, because God has not given us a spirit of fear. And so I just stepped back, and I was just like, you know, I think we really need to look at the way that we're delivering these messages to people, because some people, this anxiety that I had that one night, some people live with that level of anxiety every day. They take medication to control their anxiety and be able to function on a normal level. And so if we're telling these people, if you're fearful, you don't have a relationship with God, a true one, like, you know, you're not, you know, you're lacking in some places. If you're a pastor, like, they ask everyone to stay home. And so if your church is shutting down and like not listening, now all of a sudden that makes your pastor like, oh, I question the leadership, because
validity of what they're saying.
They're choosing to listen and not. So I was just reading an article before in preparation. They said 80, it was a number in the 80s. I believe it was like 86 or 88% of the cases in China was linked to one woman who was sick and went to church.
I saw the same article.
You saw that article, right? And so she infected those people who infected people who infected people who infected people.
So back to the morons in my group chat. One of them posted this article and he misread it. He was like, yo, look how racist it is. Because one of the sentences says that this woman infected her fellow worshipers. He thought it said yellow worshipers. Look how racist this is.
That's crazy.
Y'all let me. Naturally, I go. That word is fellow. I said nothing. Man. Yo, H, I read it and went, what's happening in the world around me?
Crazy, man.
He ended up, in fairness to him, he ended up correcting himself. He was like, yo, it actually says fellow, my bad, LOL.
I'm sorry, but I have to wipe my screen with Lysol just to get that nice. I just gotta,
what I'm dealing with. But just to piggyback off you were saying, right, Wendy, we are the question we're addressing today is spirituality in times of crisis.
Yeah.
For me, Wendy, because I've seen some of the same sentiments people criticizing passes
Mm-hmm.
and different things like that. It's weird because it's like
They can kick rocks.
that's first off, biblically it's been addressed, right? Like, you know, when the Pharisees trying to trick Jesus and he was like, no, you give Caesar what Caesar's. Like, there's a bigger statement behind that, which is to say, I know what you're trying to do there, but we live in this particular country, and it appears
Exactly.
that these are the rules of this particular country.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
We're
you.
going to follow those rules. Secondly, I always, for me, whenever I come across something that's illogical or nonsensical, I take the logic the person is trying to impose on me, and I apply it to another situation.
Yeah.
I'm from Florida. Florida has a lot of hurricanes. Sometimes the government says, hey, for the next 2 days, stay home. It appears we're about to be hit by a hurricane. By your logic, a pastor goes, don't care about that. Be Sunday, 10 a.m., be in the church.
That's foolish.
That's a goofy thing to do. That's
Yes,
not faithful. That's nonsensical.
Yeah.
And then my last point on this is, and pastors are shepherds.
Mm-hmm.
Shepherds are people who have sheep and they move their sheep through whatever it's finding food, whatever the case may be. The primary job is to keep the sheep away from danger. It's like a basic kind of thing.
Yeah.
So nobody applauds the shepherd for, again, heading towards a field of diseased grass or whatever the case may be. They'd be like, why would you do that?
Right.
You killed the entire flock. So, you know, to go science, be there, be at Bible study at 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning, that doesn't make you more faithful. That makes you more foolish.
Yeah.
Yo, this is the
And I
thing.
feel like that
Really,
makes individuals more followers of man than followers of God.
Absolutely.
Because you know, I what really disturbs me, along with all the foolishness that you pointed out, Rico, is this concept that being fearful in a situation that you should legitimately be, you know, concerned in equals non-belief. And that's tough for me to grasp. Because there are many instances in our lives when we should legitimately be fearful. Like, men, when your wives go, carrying a child is one of the most crucial and most sensitive parts that a woman could be in, and anything could happen. Anything could happen during childbirth. And so for someone to say, oh, well, you're fearful because your wife is in labor, so you must not believe. There's so many things like that doesn't equal non-belief, but there's so much of that going on. I remember years ago I had asked a question similar to that, and some of the responses I got, like in my inbox, because some people, I guess maybe they knew that their responses were a little ridiculous, so they didn't want to put it out to the open. But it was, again, God did not create a spirit of fear, so you have to understand where that fear is coming from. It's from the enemy, and you shall not be fearful. But fear is a normal human emotion.
Sometimes
just like
fear is your friend.
Exactly.
It keeps you out of doing dumb-ish.
it sure does.
Most
I mean,
definitely.
Really quickly, right? So first and foremost, for those that say, "Oh, you're not of God because you feel this way," and you guys are shutting down, right? At the end of the day, Romans 13:1, follow the laws of the land, which is a government. It also goes on to say there's nobody in position in the government that God has not put in place. And if you're not following the laws of the land, you're disobeying God, because I'm telling you, this is what you got to do. So for all the false prophets or uninformed prophets, that's how you qualify that statement right there. Second of all, like you guys both said, definitely fear has definitely stopped me from doing a lot of stupid things, which will definitely hurt a lot of people from me doing that stupid thing. Just like the lady went to church and infected everybody. So you gotta relax. Get off the internet. Get off the internet. Chill out.
I was just about to chime in on that part of it too. It's like, I'm gonna go a little bit deep here and say that we have to understand that we are all three-part beings. We have our flesh that interacts with the outside world. We have a soul, which is our will, our emotion, our fears, our all those things within us, and then we have a spirit. And my thing is, everyone's been running around with their heads cut off like chickens, trying to take care of the flesh part.
Mm-hmm.
And everything we're reading on our timelines, as far as Facebook, is loading our soul up with fear. It's like you're feeding your body, you're tending to your body, you're keeping it clean, you're feeding it when you're hungry. And for your soul, what you've been doing, or what we've been doing, is we've been scrolling down our feeds, looking at conspiracy theories. Whatever you feed is what's going to manifest. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah.
like, what are you feeding your spirit? And this is a difficult time, because church is where you're supposed to get that feeding for your spirit. But now you have to kind of take charge of that yourself, where, like, there's almost like a lopsided thing. You know what I'm saying? Before, you were able to go meet and have Bible study. You would go and meet and go to your worship services, but you don't necessarily have that right now. So now you're on social media, where you're getting fed all these opinions of people, conspiracy theories. You're getting fed all this, which a lot of it is just nonsense, and you're not getting the food that you need spiritually to be able to weather this storm that we're going through right now. And so the advice I would give to people like that is, if you're feeling anxiety that's apart from disease or mental illness, I would say to start to focus on things that feed your spirit. Start to focus on things that feed your soul positively. Spending time with your family, talking to them. I've had more conversation with my wife in this time than I've had in any other.
Yeah, facts.
You know what I'm saying? Do things that will feed your soul positively. Do things that feed your spirit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's becoming lopsided. It's becoming very lopsided. There's a point in your life where you don't want to hear what nobody else has to say except what the Spirit of God says.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is the time for that now. I'm not trying to. I don't want to hear. I'm not necessarily trying to hear what Trump got to say. I'm not necessarily trying to hear what the prophet down the street got to say. I want to hear what God said.
I mean, for me, just looking at everything, like, from top to bottom, like, just the opportunity we have to make a difference, right? You could live in a spirit of fear, or you could be courageous and see how everybody else is doing.
Yes, and being courageous is not an absence of fear.
Exactly.
It's moving forward with that fear anyway.
Exactly. You know it exists, but that doesn't mean, it's there. But what are you willing to do? Are you going to sit there and let it consume you? Or are you going to sit there and try to make something work? Because going back to what Wendy said, with what people wanting leaders to, your churches should be open and all of that, that makes absolutely no sense, because typically those same people are not doing anything from day 1 to 6. So,
at all.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
So if you're not doing anything from day 1 to 6, and all of a sudden you're going to judge someone for day 7, go to sleep. Okay. Like, sleep it off. You know what I'm saying? Because it makes no sense. Just like Harry said, we have an opportunity to, just like he said, like, talking to certain family members I haven't spoke to in a little bit. Ended up talking to them, seeing how they're doing. Friends, Harry came by the crib and gave me some smacking mac and cheese, bro. You know what I mean?
We already know what it is. But
sorry, guys. I don't want to make myself feel so important.
Yo, he threw gang signs up for the mac and cheese, man.
Mac and cheese. Nah, but for real though, like,
baby.
Through this pandemic, you're seeing the best of people. You know what I'm saying? And you're seeing the worst of people at times too.
Yes.
Yo, the funniest thing I've seen so far, Harry was talking about, I've been having conversations with my wife. I saw a meme, dude was like, I walked in and somebody was sitting on the couch. Apparently it's my wife. Apparently I'm married.
It's true, man. It's true. This whole pandemic brings things back into perspective. It brings things back into its rightful place as to what's important and as to what's not important.
For sure.
And like, the next pair of Jordans you won't get don't matter. The next outfit you have to get for the wedding don't matter. All these other things that you put priority over, your own personal life that needs attention, it puts it back right into place. You
But
know,
I
and
will
so
say that online sales are going crazy though. I'll tell you
yeah.
that.
I know they are.
Word.
Oh yeah.
And I have to admit that I've been participating in those online
Retail
sales.
therapy,
That you
baby.
have.
Retail therapy.
But let me just say,
Looking
I think I'll
extra
be doing.
fresh from the bathroom to the living room. You looking extra fresh.
That
let
quarantine drip.
let me just say I feel like I would do a disservice if I didn't give some of these pointers out. If you're unsure of what you're feeling, anxiety can exhibit itself in physical ways as well as some mental ways. If you're all of a sudden more irritable than normal, if you're restless, insomnia, if you have symptoms like, lightheaded, tight chest, difficulty breathing. Those are all symptoms that you are exhibiting anxiety. I just want to give you some quick tips on what to do when you're having those symptoms. One of the things that are most effective are something called grounding techniques, which is exactly what it sounds like. They're tools to ground you and make you feel like you're firmly planted in yourself, because sometimes anxiety makes you feel like you're having an outer body experience. Sometimes you think you're having a heart attack because that's sometimes what it feels like. You cannot move, you cannot breathe. So some things that you can do. One of the things I use the most with some of my clients is the 5-4-3-2-1. Look around the room. Five things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, two things you can touch, 1 thing you can taste in your mouth. That brings you centered back into yourself. Also,
Could you repeat that one more time, just a little slowly? That is an incredible piece of
sure.
information.
One,
4, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5-4-3-2-1. If you're having some symptoms of anxiety and you're cognizant that you are having symptoms of anxiety, look around the room. It's again 5-4-3-2-1. Look around the room. List 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can smell, 2 things that you can taste, or 1 thing that you can touch. I think I said that, but you can go do whatever works for you in that list. Like you can,
Real
the
quick,
5
H, if
can
you
be
don't
5 things that you can touch. Like you can change that list around.
Right.
But
H, if
what
you
that
don't
does,
mind, if
it
you could
brings.
put that in the put that in the show notes, H, that would be incredible, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Sorry, go ahead, Wendy. I kept cutting you off. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll send that to you. But what that does is it helps you stop focusing on whatever is bringing you anxiety and centering it back to yourself. Another quick thing I encourage people to do is to sit in a chair and firmly try to ground your feet into the ground so you can feel that there is a bottom, so you're not feeling lightless and weightless, like you're kind of floating.
Falling.
Plant your feet on the ground and just push down until you can kind of center and recenter yourself back. So those are just 2 quick tips. If you are having symptoms of anxiety, if you feel like you're having anxiety more often, more frequently, please call your doctor. Please call your primary care. There is nothing wrong with taking medication. There is a diagnosis that is anxiety because of a situation, and it's short term. It doesn't mean that you'll be on medication forever, but when crisis occurs, sometimes you just need that something to get you through. There's nothing wrong with medication. There's nothing wrong with therapy. Therapists are doing telemental health right now via phone call or video chat. They've kind of loosened the restrictions, so seek help.
Yeah.
Shout out to
I
Wendy,
love
man. That was dope.
I love that because it makes so much sense, because I'm not a therapist or anything like that. But the way I look at some of these things is that I think people who deal with chronic anxiety or chronic worry, one is that, another person who doesn't have this problem, who may feel anxious or anxiety in moments of life that's not chronic, with someone who has a chronic issue, it's like you're experiencing something on a chronic feedback loop. Like it repeats over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so worry and fear are usually or always referenced into something in the future. And so what that exercise does, it plants you and it embeds you right back into the present moment. And when you're when you're fully invested in what's going on right in front of you, it kind of helps alleviate that fear, because it's always in reference into, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen when this happens? But that technique, that exercise brings you right back again.
For sure.
Center brings you right back
into
into the present moment. I'm here in the living room with my family. We're watching Frozen. I can smell popcorn.
Yep.
It brings you right back, because the present moment is the least place where there's anxiety, because again, by nature, it resides in something that you're afraid that's going to happen. You know, so I love that. I think that's awesome.
Before we sign off for this week, I just want to tell everybody, be cautious, not crazy.
Yep.
If you're wondering what the difference is, if you've introduced bleach into cleaning down your house, you're being cautious. If you've replaced your Dove with bleach, you're being crazy. If you're washing your hands with warm water and soap, you're being cautious. If you see blood in the water from the heat, you're being crazy. Right?
Yeah.
Fill your tank with gas, you're being cautious.
Oh my goodness.
If you have a shortage of gas, you're being crazy. You're overdoing it. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of these things where
save some toilet paper for someone else, man. Come on.
For sure. Or cut a paper towel roll in half.
There you go.
No, but in all seriousness,
listen, let me add this to the cautious and crazy. If you're praying as a form of, connection with God and trying to, center and ground as form medication, you're being cautious. If you are now becoming hyper religious and if you know what I mean by hyper religious, you're hearing now God talk to you 24/7 and starting to
rebuking
see things.
The corona spirit from your home.
You are crossing a line.
Or going to deal with coronavirus by yourself. I am going to deal with the coronavirus.
Yo. But I think you know what though? I think we're all good because, I'm kind of an imbecile, and I've been watching the background. I see no roaches crawling, so we got clean houses.
There we go. That's good, man.
You watching a live video like, yo, is that a roach? How about you log off and clean up, bro?
Exactly. Man, with that, well, I guess we'll close it out, man. I'll close it out with this statement. And I opened up with this statement. Coronavirus, I said it's real. It's really getting real. But God is even more real.
Yes, amen.
God is more real. And he can conquer anything. He can conquer anything within any circumstance. You know what I'm saying? So God.
And
God
he gave you a brain to use wisdom as well.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So this is Beyond the Walls, signing off from our respective homes. It was glad talking with y'all. I'm glad that y'all were here to listen to us. Keep tuning in because we got great content for you.
Amen.
Stay safe.
All right, y'all.